Welcome back to the Sports Business Leaders Podcast. Today we're joined by Kurt Landis. Thanks for joining the show, Kurt.
Thanks for having me, Justin.
Kurt Landis is the CEO and president of the Lehigh Valley IronPigs, the AAA affiliate of the Philadelphia Phillies. As the franchise's first and only leader since its founding in 2006, almost 20 years now, Kurt has helped build one of the most successful organizations in all of minor league baseball. Under his leadership, the Iron Pigs have consistently ranked among the national attendance leaders, earned numerous industry awards for innovation and fan experience, and have become a model for how sports organizations can drive both community impact and business success. So, again, Kurt, welcome to the show. Would love to hear more about your journey and how you ended up with the Iron Pigs.
This is my 33rd year in minor league baseball. I wish I could tell you, Justin, I started when I was two, but that wasn't the case. Um, I was like a lot of kids. I was just involved in sports. Didn't really know what you wanted to do in life, but went to college for sport management and ended up doing some internships in minor league baseball, and I really enjoyed it and kind of got my foot in the door at that point with the Toledo Mud Hens. And my journey took me first within Ohio to a new ballpark at the time in 1997 in Akron, Ohio. My first job as a general manager was in Daytona Beach, Florida, with a team at the time that was called the Daytona Cubs. Now they're the Daytona Tortugas. And then was lucky to have some success there. And the owner of that franchise asked me to move to Hagerstown, Maryland, which was a single A ball club that was struggling, and I was there for 5 years and helped to turn around that franchise before they had the opportunity to interview and come work for this club. That was back in 2006. So, as a franchise and myself are about to turn, 20 here in the Lehigh Valley, it's been just a magic carpet ride. The support, the attendance, the corporate community, the Philadelphia Phillies. It's really been a tremendous relationship. And despite, probably Allentown in this market being only out of 30 AAA teams, probably only the 27th in size, it's been great to see us, in our 19 years, half of them, we've led all of minor league baseball in attendance, including the last three. So we're very blessed, and the fans that continue to come out to the ballpark, they love to see our brand of entertainment.
Yeah, it's exciting. We were talking off air for everybody listening, Kurt and I, just about what my favorite part about a game was, and it was exactly that. It's the energy, the excitement, and although it's a smaller stadium compared to like a Citizens Bank, for example, it still gets that same energy and vibe. So it's a lot of fun. And for everybody listening who might not be familiar with the Iron Pigs, Kurt, could you just tell everybody a bit about the franchise and what you guys really are?
Well, at the heart of it, obviously, we're a AAA baseball team, right? We're helping the Philadelphia Phillies minor league players succeed and take that final step of development to support them in their, the ladder moving up to be a Philadelphia Phillies. So it's the top level of professional baseball, except for the major leagues. And that's obviously our focus and who we are, but probably more so than other minor league teams, we really embrace the fun, the goofiness, the entertainment, kind of the circus, as it were, around the game in the ballpark as much as the ballpark experience itself with the team and the players. And that's been a huge part of our success is, evaluating every aspect of our franchise, the fan experience, and making it as available and visible to as many people as possible. And, that comes in many ways with the guest service that we have here at the ballpark that we've become known for. It happens the level of entertainment, beyond just doing the standard between innings promotions. It's having your beer delivered to you by zip line. It's having flamethrowers go off after a run is scored, and fog cannons, and the scoreboard shoots fireworks out of the Coke bottle for Coca-Cola Park, and it's just a immersive experience that's very unique in sports and unique even in minor league baseball.
Definitely. And I can attest to that, having been to multiple games like we've talked about, and I think that's a really big thing that keeps people coming back. And it's a lot of that same feel of the major leagues, but in the backyard of a lot of the people that live in the Lehigh Valley. And also too, just wanted to go back to what you mentioned earlier about how you're I believe you said you worked in Hagerstown, Maryland. I went to Gettysburg College, so not too far from there. So it's cool that you've been a part of the industry for over 30 years at this point and have multiple different experiences before even going to the Iron Pigs, even though you've been there for since 2006 at this point. But going back to the early days, Kurt, would love to hear about some of the key decisions early on that helped build such a strong connection with the fans and the Lehigh Valley community.
You mentioned Hagerstown, which was a really small and older ballpark, but I really kind of cut my teeth there. And you have to be very bold and unique and creative to try to get fans to attend a ballpark that there was 80 years old. And I liken, the mindset when we arrived here was a AAA team, but with a single A mindset, a single A approach, meaning when we named ourselves Iron Pigs, we wanted to communicate that we were going to be bold, unique, different, and fun. And I think that from the beginning set the tone. We put a lot of thought into how we introduced our brand through uniforms and through, you know, having people at the ballpark wear pig noses to when there's a comeback, on the field, or the branding and the merchandise and the apparel and how we promoted the team was all very purposeful. And I think that was really important in building this culture where the fans felt like this is a team that represents them. And not just because the name Iron Pigs kind of pays tribute to the term pig iron and the Bethlehem steel, the blue collar worker and industry that had died but was paying tribute to. I think those were the cultural decisions that we made in terms of who we wanted to be in the front office, our approach to the energy and the environment. But then I think there was also a lot of great decisions made by our ownership in the design of the ballpark, that there are so many different unique ways to experience the ballpark besides just a field level individual seat. The volume of group areas and private hospitality and unique seating options is something that's not usually seen for a minor league ballpark, and we've continued to develop that with time to add even more. In fact, we just added cabanas at the top of our at the top of our lawn in center field, which have been received incredibly well. So it's hard to say there's one thing, but there's a lot of things that have led to our success, and the ability to be creative and bold with our promotions, to focus on a great quality baseball on the field, and the ballpark has become a part of our trademark success and how we continually update the experience.
That's such an important part of being innovative is just listening to what your audience is looking for and finding something that really resonates with the community. And that's what you've done. And I think you mentioned that one example of the beers coming down on zip lines. I think that's a great example of how you can engage people and just make it fun. And that's a lot of times what we hear about with for example, we've interviewed people like Larry Mealy, who's the president of the Delaware Bluecoats in the NBA G League, and those are similar concepts that he talks about, is just finding unique ways to stay up with the times and make people feel like they wanna come out to the games. How do you balance entertainment and community engagement and the actual product on the field to keep people coming back year after year?
Yeah, we go through a process every year, and we look at the entirety of the fan experience. We look at every single touch point, and how do our parking attendants interact with our guests? You can be dressed in plain t-shirts and say hi and thank you, or you can wear fun, goofy hats so you know when you come into the parking lot, you're entering somewhere fun. In fact, the ends of the lines in our parking lot have a curly Q pigtail on them. So, and we don't call them parking spaces, we call them parking spaces. So from the get-go, you try to set the tone that you're entering somewhere fun, and you look at all the aspects of the operation. Restrooms. Everyone uses the restroom when they're here, almost everyone. So, that led to us a number of years ago, incorporating what we had it be a very viral urinal video games. And guys were coming into the restroom and they were choosing to use the urinal that had a video game attached to it. And it was hands free, but they were trying to game the urinals through a very unique, fun promotion. And it wasn't just a fun promotion, but we tied it with a hospital sponsor, and we had a record number of people over the course of the 5 years that we had these urinal video games going to have their prostates examined to make sure that they were cancer free. And we caught a few individuals that had early detection of cancer. And so you talk about how does the ballpark cross over from entertaining to community. That's a great example of a promotion that it was fun, goofy, entertaining, but we also helped catch cancer in a number of people. And we're those examples are multiple. We have an event coming up called Duck Night at the ballpark. But our team wears yellow duck branded uniforms, and we have a huge Chuck a Duck event at the end of the night. But all the funds from Chuck a Duck, from the jersey auction, raffles throughout the night go to support Pediatric Cancer Foundation. So even though it's fun, that's duck and everything's yellow themed everywhere, there's an underlying support for your community. And when our fans see that it's not just fun and games, but we're doing things to support our own community, it just builds that level of energy and appreciation.
Those are things that you wouldn't even think about, like, who would have ever thought about putting a video game in the restroom? And that's, like you said, just a unique way to create an experience that people can't get anywhere else, and through sports business leaders, we talk to a lot of entrepreneurs in sports. That's something that people do when they create a business is if you can create something that's valuable to the point where somebody can't get same exact experience somewhere else, then you're gonna have a successful company, and I think the same goes for a franchise and a team and an organization on the sporting side.
Yeah, no, it's kind of an honor and an onus, a responsibility to do the right things because you're so visible. You're not making a product that's a vacuum or some generic manufactured item. You're manufacturing memories and feelings, moments that people gravitate to, and that's why it's a special place.
It truly is, and one of the things that I alluded to just a moment ago was just the fact that within sports business leaders, there are entrepreneurs and people that are building to support people and organizations like the Iron Pigs. So, I'd love to hear what advice you would have for somebody who's maybe building a company that supports a team to help them understand how to create value for an organization like the Iron Pigs.
Well, I think there's a ton of great organizations that do provide incredible services, and I think the hardest piece for any organization out there that's trying to create something specifically for sports and entertainment. There's so much competition because it's an energizing career and it's an energizing, entertainment is fun to have an association with. And I get sales calls all the time, and while because we're a people organization, you want to be available and open to people. You have to screen those so you can focus on your priorities on doing the things that you need to do to be successful. And I get tired of seeing people say, click here, the random email that uh, isn't directed towards you or the organization that says, click here for time on my calendar. And that email was sent to thousands of people. I think people need to look specifically at how their product will help the organization and quickly and directly explain that in a personalized email or communication. Um, and I think on top of that, it takes the organization having to be open to that at the right moment. So it's almost like I tell college students who ask for advice is you have to be prepared and you have to have the education and you have to have the know-how. But sometimes it takes the right opening and the right organization at the right time to be willing to accept your background experience. And
Mhm.
those things sometimes take luck and a need when your product has a match for the um, what the organization needs at the time, the sports organization.
Definitely. And I think personalization is one of the key words that you mentioned. And what I've learned from the podcast and learned from just speaking with people within the Sports Business Leaders Network is just that that's where it's all going. And especially with AI and the tools and the way that AI enhances the fan experience. For example, I was just talking to a company, they help engage fans through instead of just having a generic maybe 15% off of or any type of promotion, they can get so specific using data based on what they purchased in the stadium to say that you can get 15% off of your favorite beer if you go to this specific kiosk, which is only a 2-minute walk from your seat. So it's just using that information to get very specific is, I think, the future. And also going what or talking about one other point you mentioned too, I think just being genuine too is a big part of it. So
Well, I think companies need a flag bearer that's in the industry. So if I work with company A and I find success with them, I think that company really needs to lean into that relationship and utilize that relationship because if it's successful for me, I will go to bat for that company. And the best marketing ends up being more the word of mouth for me talking to colleagues across the industry than it would be for that company to continue to knock on doors and send emails and phone calls because we have a trust and relationship between other general managers or other teams that's really supportive.
this has all been great, Kurt. Really appreciate just the perspective and what you've been able to accomplish over 20 years with the Iron Pigs. Would love to hear any words of wisdom that you've learned over the past 20 years of being at the Iron Pigs that you'd like to share with the rest of sports business leaders.
That's a that's a great question, very open ended. There's not enough program for me to give everything, but I think overall it's just been such a great ride here, and you're just thankful for the people that help make it wonderful. I think you have to be willing to listen to your fans. And at the end of the day, if you kind of the hardest decisions that you can make sometimes if you just step back and ask yourself what would your fans want, that ends up being the right decision. I also would say for many sports leaders or people in my role, sometimes you just have to trust your gut and your instinct. And I think many times that's right because all of us are fans of our own product or fans of teams and other sports. Um, so, I think that's the biggest advice I have to offer is just um, put yourself in the shoes of the fan and how can you make your product more accessible? How can you look and analyze every aspect? And I think it's important for our organization and others to continually adapt. I think staying the same is falling behind. We talk a lot about that. Or there's lots of times where I'm satisfied, but I think we can continue to do better and pushing ourselves annually to continue to turn the dial up and not be satisfied with the experience we have. I think is something that's partly been led to our success here.
Yeah, and there's especially nowadays with the technology that's out, I think that's more prevalent than ever is just you have to stay up with the times, what people are looking for, but at the same time, the technology and what and the ways that people are engaging because just thinking about it from the fan engagement side of things, there's Gen Z looks at things much different than maybe a baby boomer, and it's always changing. And even the generation below Gen Z, the younger generation, I believe it's Alpha, they're much different than even Gen Z. So it's crazy, and it's good that you have that mindset of always being adaptable. And I think the rest of the audience needs to listen to that advice because it's definitely something that is always going to hold true.
Yeah, and you have to stay true to your mission and who you are, but at the same time, you want to try to be something for everybody because the baseball, our target market is everybody. It's men, it's women, it's all age groups. So you try to provide options, either different promotions or what parts of the ballpark are good for different types of generations or parts of individual organizations. You try to make it something for everybody. At the same time, though, you still have to stay true to who you are and not rotate and be seen as being something for everybody. So it's a hard, it's a hard line to toe sometimes.
Yeah, I'm sure you learned that over the years and probably implementing a lot of it just from maybe some situations that originally didn't go the way you wanted and then succeeded afterwards?
Yeah, sure. And then you talk about technology. We just installed we own and operate our own concessions at the ballpark, which is very rare for professional teams. Um, we integrated Amazon's Just Walk Out technology. So literally, there's a lot of fans that don't want to interact with the cashier. They just feel more comfortable tapping their card, grabbing items, and walking out without interaction. And there's some people that see that type of stand and have a very adverse reaction because you know, they want to talk to a human. But so you have, the entire ballpark isn't that technologically savvy because the entire community is not ready for that yet, but a lot of people are and want that type of service. So again, it's trying to react to your fans and provide services that they all want.
Yeah, and what I've found is the younger generations don't even need to talk or they don't even wanna talk to somebody. They'd much rather text or email and just do it that way. So it's cool that, like you said, you have different parts of the ballpark that are for specific types of people, and just listening and having a good finger on the pulse of what's going on, I think is vital.
Yeah, it's like our hospitality spaces. There's something for everybody. If you have a small group of people celebrating a birthday, you can rent a cabana. If you have a very large group and you want something extremely affordable, you look to our picnic patio. You also have our dugout suites, which are at the lower level, right behind home plate, that offer a very high level VIP experience. There's really, truly a seating option and price point that can be available for everybody. And our lowest price ticket is still $10 just to come in for, to have a seat on the lawn, which, by the way, Justin, we call pigs in a blanket, just in case you're wondering. But seat on the lawn and to enjoy the game, and even our most expensive ticket that includes all you can eat food and beverage in those dugout suites I mentioned, they're only $55 per ticket. So, it's a very affordable, fan-friendly experience with a focus on unique entertainment and uh, guest service is a huge part of how we separate ourselves from any other entertainment in our market as well.
Excited to go to the game in August and appreciate you not only sharing everything about the Iron Pigs, but just sharing your advice with the rest of the community here. And what would be the best way? Because a lot of our community is based in Philly. What's the best way for everybody to keep in touch with you and learn more about the Iron Pigs?
Well, the best way is our website, ironpigsbaseball.com. But, I encourage people to come to a game. I think sometimes people hear the word minor in minor league baseball, and it can lead to different perceptions. And depends on where you've been to see a baseball game. There are some very small, very poorly run franchises. Quite honestly, there's still some very small mom and pop organizations that haven't adapted to a lot of the demands and desires for the modern fan, as it were. But at the ballpark here, when people step in, sometimes they wonder, like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize it was this nice or even this large." That's not Citizens Bank Park, but for see something this significant in Allentown, and this community, this region has a lot to offer, and I think as this region has grown, it's one of the few growing areas of Pennsylvania. People start to see that we've kind of since we've been here, this region has really continued to grow in population, offers a lot, and the ballpark is something that's truly unique to baseball lovers for different reasons.
Yeah, yeah, I can attest to it, having been there multiple times. So, Kurt, this has been awesome. Thank you again, and best of luck.
And Justin, I look forward to having you here in August, and thanks for having me on the show.